What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, we'll be answering some more of your beginner fabric questions. This series is specifically tailored to those that are still getting their feet wet when it comes to the fashion industry, the textile space, and in general, they're trying to understand more. I'll be covering the top questions that I've gotten as a creative director and as a product designer, basically doing all things in fashion from the design aspect all the way down to the final finished execution. So I'll be pulling in from my experience and we'll be answering questions all the way from what's the difference between polyester and nylon, and we'll be looking at the differences between natural, semi-synthetics, and synthetic fabrics. So if you guys have ever been interested in any of these questions, buckle up, you guys are in for a good one. What's up, design family, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. Getting right into it, the first question is going to be, how many different types of fibers are available in the market? So when people ask this question, they sort of want to know what's the overall scope of the different fabrics that we can find. And that's kind of an open-ended question because there are really so many different fibers that you can find. But the easiest way to approach this question and answer it is to look at and categorize fibers into three key families. The first one are going to be your natural fibers. These are going to be fibers that we source from the world around us, from the animals around us. It can be something like wool, cashmere, cotton. These are some of the most popular natural fibers out there. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have your synthetic fibers. These are going to be fibers that are typically made from oils, from plastics, and they are completely man-made. Some of the heavy hitters in this space are obvious: nylon, polyester, spandex. And then sort of in the middle, we have our semi-synthetic fiber family. These are going to be fibers that part of them, or like the core parts, are sourced from the world around us, but they also require some man-made processes in order to truly extract them and to truly turn them into fiber form. These are going to be things like your lyocell, your viscose, and your rayon. The next questions most beginners are going to ask is, what's better, a natural or a synthetic fiber? And again, there's no straight response to this because it highly depends on what you want that specific fiber for. I'll give you a clear example. Let's just say you're creating a sports performance line where high durability, high stretch, and high sweat wicking performance is a key proponent of what you're looking for. Well, something like a cashmere may be a horrible option, right? You may want to opt for either nylon or polyester instead. But let's just say you're trying to create an ultra luxurious wool coat, or you're trying to create an ultra luxurious coat, then wool or cashmere may be a much better option. So it depends on the purpose and the end use of the fabric that you're trying to go for. So learn about each of the different fibers that's available to you and understand what you want to achieve with the product, and then sort of link those two things together. We've done a whole playlist, basically a whole series on intros to each of these different types of fibers, where we've covered polyester, nylon, spandex, cashmere, wool, PVC, so on and so forth. So I highly recommend you check out that playlist. I'll link it in the description below. The third question on most beginners' minds are all natural fibers sustainable? Sustainability is a key aspect in terms of most brands and most people's decision makings, like philosophy, when it comes to what types of fibers to pick, what types of fabrics to use, and what types of designs to create. Though most, or actually all, natural fibers are renewable, which means that we can continuously source them as we cultivate them from plants and from animals, they are not necessarily sustainable, because sustainability doesn't only relate to can we grow more of this. It also has to do with the traceability aspect of these fibers. It has to do with the working environment that workers are put in when they're actually made to cultivate these items. And it also has to do with the harmful byproducts of the cultivation and the growth of our natural fibers. I'll give you a very clear example. Cotton, although it is a natural fiber, in some parts of the world, because of such harsh working conditions, workers are subject to a lot of painful processes when it comes to actually cultivating cotton, and even in more industrialized and mechanized industries. Cotton is also extremely taxing on the environment. It uses up a lot of resources and it ends up sometimes doing more harm than good. So not all natural fibers are sustainable. Do bear that in mind and do your research when you're looking for a sustainable fiber. We've done a lot of videos on our channel with regards to sustainable fabrics, so I highly recommend you check them out. Now, moving on from our discussion of natural fabrics, we're gonna pit head-to-head two of the most popular synthetic fibers on the market, nylon and polyester. And chances are you've probably seen this episode of ours from the past where we actually put nylon and polyester head-to-head. But if you haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend you check it out. Quickly to recap what we discussed on that episode. Both nylon and polyester are lightweight, durable synthetic fabrics. And yes, they have a lot of similar properties in terms of their wrinkle, their stretch, and their shrink resistance. But where they do differ is that nylon in general is slightly softer and it's a bit more durable than polyester, whereas polyester is going to be quicker to dry, it's going to be more sweat wicking, and it's going to have a better color fastness to it. So it has higher color fastness. It just holds on to colors better throughout the long term, and it has more abrasion resistance. So it's going to resist the effects of abrasive activity much better than nylon. The last question that we typically get are, do synthetic fibers vary in their quality? For example, can a 100% polyester fabric from one manufacturer differ in quality from a 100% fabric from a different manufacturer? The answer is sort of yes and no. In general, because the raw materials and the processes used to make synthetic fibers are much more controllable and there's a lot more human and machine input, it's much easier to maintain the quality of synthetic fibers and to make them a lot more stable across different production techniques. But of course, different production processes, different machinery, different finishings can still affect the look and the feel of the actual finished fabric. So that is something to definitely bear in mind. Well guys, that is it. That is a wrap on this episode, sort of like part 2 of the series where I've gone through most of the beginner questions that we get on all things fashion and sort of textile technology. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It really does help us out. Also, if there are any other questions that you guys have on anything to do with textile technology, fashion design, setting up your manufacturing network that we didn't answer in this episode or any of the other episodes, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description. We're hosting limited number of consultation slots with me personally over the next couple of weeks. So I highly recommend you check it out, book your slot, and we can discuss anything. And if you have a specific question to do with your business, I'll definitely tailor my approach and my feedback specifically for you guys. So definitely look forward to that. And if you guys have any other questions, also maybe feel free to leave them in the comments below. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.